Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans. I'm Stephanie and today we're going to be creating dividers for our custom planners. I'm going to be using these hanging file folders as well as an old divider as a template to cut them out of the file folders. I will be using these label makers to make labels. I've got this hole puncher here that I'll be using to punch the dividers. I have some other tools like scissors and a cutter just to do fine cutting, and a giant guillotine paper cutter to do the long straight cuts. And you guys can use any stock paper, anything that you have on hand. It doesn't have to be hanging file folders. I just decided to use these, and I'll explain a little bit why I think they're pretty great for this application. So first off, I need to prep the file folders because they are a tiny bit too big to fit within my guillotine cutter. It's just a smidge too tight to get it in there with those little nubbins on the end. I'm going to go ahead and cut those off. I just have these giant, I don't know, pincer style scissors that are really good for cutting in DIY projects with wood and other metals. So I had those on hand. It's not necessary for you to do that. It just makes sliding it in a little bit easier for me on my paper cutter. Now, what I'm going to do is actually trim off the whole section there that has the metal glued down inside and all of that good stuff, as well as cut it in half so that I can get the divider kind of set up. I'm using these because of the thicker paper, and it's just more durable and really great for dividers. You can use any file folders for this as well as cardstock, but I found that file folders are like coated and they're just better. And here's where I was distracted and cut my sheet too small. So this guy's going to get a little hack later down the road to make sure that I don't do that again and can use this, because there were exactly the right amount of file folders to get a 12-month layout of dividers all in one shot. So I'm going to have to salvage that one. But anyway, what I'm doing is I am cutting so that there is enough to incorporate the full page along with some of the space for the tab, as you can kind of see me doing there with the template. So for the classic Happy Planner, I'm basically doing 7.5 roughly by 9 1/4, which is the height of the Happy Planner page. So a little bit bigger than the 7 inches that each page is for Happy Planner Classic. But for example, if you are doing a letter size page, like a big Happy Planner, sizing that you would want to do is, instead of 8.5 across, you'd probably want to do 9 by 11, and so on and so forth, depending on what size you're using for your planner. Okay, so I'm just going through and I'm prepping all of these file folders. One thing that I am trying to do is avoid that logo, as you can see there on the back. So I'm going to be doing some moving and finagling on the dividers to try to cut that part off when the time comes. This set of hanging file folders I got from Walmart, and the whole set was under $6. It was 5 something. 3 different styles, and I just really liked how it was like black and white and clean and very, I don't know, modern looking. So I grabbed those and have already trimmed most of them. And now I will begin punching and figuring out the order so that I can do the cuts for each divider section, and also whichever side I'm going to be doing the hole punch. And here's the one that I will be adjusting so that I can make a tab out of it and salvage it, which you'll see me do. Great choices for this is to use dividers that you already have, so you can make the tabs yourself. and just follow along with the already established pattern. But if you don't have anything to start with, you can just do a measurement style of tab where you're just measuring each 2 inches on one side, or dividing up your page into equal increments depending on how many dividers you want on the side of your page. And that's pretty simple to do with just a ruler. Once you get your pages cut, that's where you really want to start, and then figure out where your tabs are going to go. So here I'm just adjusting the order of things so I can make sure that that one that needs to be adjusted is not at the very front. I want to make sure that that white one that I need to fix is hidden within the schema. Now what I'm doing is actually drawing out where the tab is going to be. I'm just flipping it upside down or right side up to do the 2 middle tabs, since there are 4 across the side. And so I can use 1 divider for the top and the bottom, just flipping it, and then 1 divider for the 2 middle ones, just flipping it, and that works out perfectly. Again, just trying to figure out the order of things. I thought I had it, and then I needed to go back and figure it out again so that that one was kind of snugged in there and not right up in the front. And then I kept confusing myself, so this is something you'll need to be aware of when you do it. Make sure that you're doing the opposite of what you want the divider on the front to be on the back. So when you are tracing out the tab, remember it's going to be flipped. That can get confusing as well. Hopefully you guys won't be as confused as I was for a minute here. It really doesn't matter what order your dividers are going in, then you should be fine. But what I would suggest doing is tracing them all out first, seeing how they all line up, and then verifying it before you actually make any cuts. Really helped me out a lot. So again, just double checking as I go, making sure I have the lineup right and that everything is alternating in the pattern I am envisioning. So some cardstock will be double-sided, which is kind of nice if you aren't planning on sticking any pages to the back of your divider. This worked out better for me because I end up sticking the monthly layout to the back of the divider, so I don't need a backing to it. I can just easily just stick the page down, and that looks great for me and works great for me. I don't need the extra. So these one-sided sheets work perfectly, but if you do like standalone dividers, do realize that you would want to look for cardstock or some kind of double-sided file folder divider that you can save yourself the time and the energy from doing a double cut. I have in the past used that gold foil cardstock that I showed earlier and did a double-sided divider with 2 cuts. It worked pretty well. It just took a little bit longer because you have to basically do twice the amount of work and then stick the pages together. So just because I'm not that great at doing straight cuts, I am doing as many straight cuts as I possibly can on my guillotine cutter. I'm going pretty close to the line and trying to do what I can to get right up there with the straight cuts. Even cutting with my left hand, which was very scary, because you can see, so I could get that cut on the opposite side. But it worked out fine. I just had to go real slow so that I didn't cut too far. My motor control obviously isn't as good on my left side. So basically I'm just gonna cut them all in the same manner, and like I said, I'm gonna try to do those left cuts. Being careful not to cut where the tab is going, but up to where I have the tab marked, or as close as I feel comfortable getting with this large cutter. Just a few more here. And it's okay if you mess up or things aren't perfect because the dividers are usually staggered, so it shouldn't really be that noticeable in the end. Just, do your best and then work from that. I've busted out my tiny little cutting mat to help with this part of the project. I'm using my precision cutter, which I got from Slice, which I love. It's really great. It's a really small, thin blade, but it's really safe and doesn't cut too deep. I love it for almost every application. It was okay for this because the dividers are so thick. Maybe like an X-Acto knife or something might have been a little bit easier to cut through, but it definitely helped with rounding corners because it's so small and thin. It really helped me just kind of trace it like a pen versus the X-Acto knife would be a lot more challenging, I think, to get a nice soft edge there on the corners. And this again is all relative. You can do sharp corners if you prefer and make your life a lot easier. Just do square cuts and you don't have to do all this extra effort like I like to do. I don't know, like I like to make my life a little bit more difficult, I guess. Anyway, so I'm doing those cuts and just kind of cleaning anything up that I need to with the scissors. And as I go, I am punching the dividers and just double checking, making sure everything is aligning how I want it. So there's quite a bit of this trim out. I just wanted to show you at least 4 top and bottom dividers and how I did it. If you guys have a Cricut, that will save you tons of time. I didn't quite get to buying myself a Cricut this year. I had thought about it, but then in the end, I don't know, I just couldn't do it. So I don't have the room and I don't know, it's kind of expensive and all the materials are expensive. It's gonna have to do it old school, hand done way, but if you do have a tool, a cutting tool like a Cricut, I think that would be so much better and so much easier. But I highly recommend using file folders for that application because of the sturdiness of the material, and if it's cutting, being cut for you, even better. I think you guys have seen enough of this. Just punch a few more and then we'll jump to the next part of this project, which is the labeling. Okay, so I have them all cut. And this is what I did to fix that one with the tab cut off. Just kind of glued it down there and made my tab from another scrap piece. I wanted to show you another way that you could use these file folders if you wanted to without having to do the divider tab cuts. You could actually cut it so that the metal part stays on and then use the dividing tabs for making dividers without having to do any extra cuts. So you just do solid cuts, punch it, and then use the divider tabs. And then you can move them up and down and all around and change them out pretty easily. So I did want to show you guys that. I'm going to use my label maker, and in the past I've used that Dymo label maker. It's really easy. It's like 25 bucks at Walmart or Target. It works great. It's just a little bit simple. You don't have very many options for different types of fonts. It's kind of standard looking. Whereas a faux memo, I can customize the look of it. Even though it's still one color, black and white, I could use whatever font I wanted and just, make it totally customized for me. So I am setting it up right now, and it prints more than just labels. It does stickers and what have you, but I'm going to do my labels that I have already kind of set up in a file that I made on my computer, actually, because it just made life a lot easier when I was laying this out, and I'll show you why in a minute. But that's not necessary. You can do individual labels one by one or create a whole sheet of just labels and cut them by hand. I just did it this way so that I could customize the way that they all lay out. So here's why I did not cut each label apart. I really like this overlapping label technique that will really saves me time as far as trying to line things up, and also makes things look kind of clean and neat top and bottom. I did that recently on my dashboards and decided I was going to do it again here on my dividers. So that's what I'm doing. Basically, it's just the months of the year in the same font that I use on all of my dashboards. I'm using paper stickers instead of clear, obviously, because I have a lot of black dividers, and it just makes it a lot easier to see the actual label. I tend to like to use paper stickers for my labeling when I do any kind of labeling, my dashboards included. Just makes it a lot easier to read and see. And once I get these last labels on, you guys, we will be done. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Bye!